Have you ever had some concerns that, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you don't know your purpose, you just seem to not get a handle on where you're supposed to go in your life? Pretty much you just can't figure it out. I want to talk about, is that okay or not? Is it okay to not have it figured out? What's happening, people? Welcome back to Be More to Do More podcast, where we help you to become the person you need to become to do the things you call to do. Your boy Tone in the building, and
Henry Allen Harden.
The what?
The third.
Don't forget the
3.
You already know, man. Before I get into it, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Do you feel like in our culture we push our people out too fast?
I think so.
Like, you're 18, you gotta get out my house.
I mean, I don't know. I think so, but then again, I don't know.
Like, is 18 like the adequate age? Like, just graduating out of high school, all you know is waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to school.
Right.
Getting out of school at 3. You might have some at-school activities, maybe.
Right. But
now you're going to, like, all right, you got to go get a real job and get out my house.
It hits you real quick.
Real quick.
So I think we do. And I think that's just the culture of America. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm assuming you asked the question because, our wives are from another culture. Mm-hmm. And I even noticed that in other cultures that, they allow their kids to somewhat, chill out at the house, for a few years, until they got, like really figure it out.
Right.
So, excuse me, maybe we do. Maybe we just don't have enough time to develop to actually see what we want to do. But I don't know, man. Then I look at you, man, pretty, young brother. You seem like you got it figured out.
I don't have it figured out.
Well, I say this, and I always say this, because if I look at, I'm going to compare. I'm going to do something that we ain't supposed to do that we talked about in the last pod. If I look at my life and your life, right? Me having like 100 jobs, maybe 150, right?
150.
And you pretty much found something that you love to do at an early age, right? Right? Like,
sure,
bro.
Sure.
Like, it was to the point where I thought it wasn't normal. I'm like, bro, you sure you love what you do? Like, you really love it? I said, that's odd, man. Like, people I know, we ain't got to figure it out here like that, man. But
does that mean I got to figure it out, doesn't it? Because I like what I do?
I kind of figured out. I kind of figured it. You do got to.
What does that look like? What does it look like to have it figured out? I guess it's
so. I think that's the point of this question, though. Mm-hmm. Is it okay? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because you're asking the question, what does it look like to have it figured out? Like, that's the answer. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Who actually have it figured out? Right. Like, who? See, I thought you had it figured out. Mm-hmm. But you was like, no, I don't have it figured out.
Well, I guess it's like, all right, so this is how I look at it too, right?
Okay.
There's multiple, what's the word I'm looking for? Areas in your life.
Okay.
And nothing is ever, how do I say this? I don't know if that's, I don't want to say it because I don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true, so I'm not going to say it.
Say it.
Because I'm watching my words and
say it,
and how, what I say.
Said.
But what I will say is that you have to be intentional in every area of your life.
I think so. I believe
to keep it balanced.
I believe so.
And
balanced.
Is there such thing as balance, having a balanced life? I don't know. All right. But I think that's something that we can always strive for. Right? I think it's a good goal.
Right.
Right.
So what do you mean by, like, as far as figuring, like, having a balance, having a balance of not having it figured out and figured out?
All right. So, all right, let's take the two things that people talk about a lot, right?
Okay.
Work life.
Right?
Okay. Work life balance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in work life integration, me personally, but that's another subject. But so, like, does your work life balance out with your does your work life balance out with your personal life?
Right.
And are you able to get the things accomplished in both areas. And it's just sometimes, like a lot of times sometimes, work is right here, and then, personal life is down here. And then sometimes it's, personal life is way up here.
Right.
And, work is down here, right?
Right.
So I don't, and so it's like having it figured out would be like some people consider that it's just even, right? But is that having it figured out? It's just it's even.
See, that's why I'm bringing this question to the table, because now that you ask, what does that look like to have it figured out? You know what I mean? Like, do anybody have it figured out? And I think that when you do have it figured out, there's another mark you have to hit. So you're back to not having it figured out. You know what I mean? So is it okay to have it figured out? I want to dig deeper into the question of having it figured out, because now, okay, not to play devil's advocate, but to look at things on the flip side. All right, if I look at my life and if I have that question, dang, like I ain't got to figure it out, maybe I'm too much in my head rather than too much in action.
What you mean?
Like, I'm trying to figure it out before I actually take action. So if I can't figure it out, it's not because I don't have it figured out. It's because I haven't taken action to see results and evidence to continue to strive to figure it out. You know what I mean?
So like analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. You know what I mean?
So you do nothing because you are nothing.
I am nothing.
So I couldn't. That was a little lit right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So
okay.
So I get stuck there. So I think you got to ask yourself that, like, what actions have I taken? Or what steps have I taken to at least try to figure it out?
So is that true for somebody that's in that transition period where, like life is like, okay, take an example for me, right? Like, technically, right, I make a generous amount of money, right?
You make a lot of money.
And allegedly. And, I have a beautiful family, right?
Right.
I have beautiful support system, right?
Right.
But that don't mean that I'm not looking to become more, to do more.
Okay.
Right? Because, like, it's just, what does that look like for someone that's, okay, this is cool, but I want to transition into something even more
cooler
or more purposeful or more,
right.
And not necessarily saying you're leaving those things behind that you're doing, but okay, like what does my next level look like?
Right.
And I think there's a lot of our doobies out there, right?
Doobies.
They're they may be quote unquote successful to their peers,
right?
And they appear to have it figured out, but they're looking to transition into another arena that they, are not as.
So therefore, they don't have it figured out because of their own expectations. Is that what it is? Man.
Okay. You cooking? Nah, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because I mean, it's almost kind of the same thing when we talked about. Kind of like happiness or like being whatever, like what was it? Are you enough?
Right.
So it's kind of like that, where it's like you could be, you could have it all figured out,
right?
But you're still alive, therefore that means that there's something more that you need to accomplish.
True.
So you continue to go on that journey to be able to be successful in another arena or you even turn the difficulty level up a little bit and go after even more in your current arena. So
makes sense.
I can be content with being middle of the road,
right.
And like, you got to figure it out. You're in the top half of whatever, right?
But is that really having it figured out?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because at what point See, I think this word of balance that you was talking about, I think you just put your brain in my brain. I kind of foresaw what you was talking about.
That was a very Ricky Bobby-ish comment right there.
I know, man.
You put your brain in my brain.
Man.
little stepbrothers.
Nah, I mean, I'm just, dang, where was I going with this?
Friends?
Yeah, like, dang, where was I going? It was deep too. Anyway, yeah, having it figured out, man.
I threw you off. My bad.
Nah, I was going somewhere with that, man. But
you started thinking about Talladega Nights. My bad.
Yeah. But I'm all jacked up a Mountain Dew.
Sorry, I'm done. All right.
So, all right, man. We okay. All right, is it okay to have it figured out? All right, man.
Where's the origin of that question come from?
See, that's the thing. It comes from the analysis of paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think sometimes we stand still trying to figure things out in our heads versus just taking action. You know, and you know it's this thing. You want to know what faith is? Faith.
What's faith?
Faith. Okay, not faith. That's not the word I'm looking for. So, you know how people say, test. I'm sorry, test. Test. You know how people say that God is putting you to the test?
Yeah.
What do they usually say after that? God is putting you to the test. Play a little game of charades. We just played last night. What do they usually say when they say God is putting you to the test?
So you can come out better on the other side type thing?
Well, some people say God is putting you to the test to see what you're going to do.
Okay.
You hear that a lot, right?
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Right.
I do that a lot.
Right. But actually, so like when he tested Abraham, right?
Uh-huh.
It wasn't to see what he was going to do. I mean, most people say it was, but the test in that aspect means to test and prove. Test and prove. Meaning, you know how scientists test something to prove something and to keep testing it?
Right.
They prove it to get information from what they're testing.
Yeah.
So let me try this and see what happens. Oh, okay, cool. That happens. That's not a result I'm looking for, but we're close. Let's test it again.
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. That's not it. But they keep testing it until it becomes the result that they're looking for.
Okay.
So most people sit in their thoughts trying to figure out before they test and prove.
So you're saying that we should just go ahead and just act? Be by that action?
Nah, I'm not saying that, man, because that's your thing, Mr. Action Man. Nah, I mean,
because how do you start to figure it out if you're not like testing it?
Well, I mean, I am saying you should act. That's what I'm saying, but I'm not saying act like real quick. You know what I mean? I'm saying like when you get to a point where you feel yourself overthinking it, trying to figure it out, and you getting discouraged, take an action. You know what I mean? Take an action, and to see what happens. You know, and based upon the results, man, it will, the results talk to you. It tells you where you should go or what you should do. You know, it's like that type of thing.
Dang, so even when you feel like you're stuck and you just kind of, I don't know what to do. If you do something,
yeah,
it's gonna help you kind of ultimately
determine,
figure it out.
Yeah. And I think it produces a character too, because if you think about it, going back to the story when God tested Abraham, you know, Abraham desired a son so bad, God promised him a son, Isaac. Yeah, Isaac. I get Isaiah and Isaac mixed up. But he promised him Isaac. But when he finally got Isaac, because you remember he was at an age where it wasn't normal to bear a child. And Sarah was too. So when they finally got their child, you know, God said, hey, give him back. You know what I mean? Like he was testing Abraham. Now, most people will say that God is testing Abraham to see what Abraham's going to do. I believe that God was using the test as an opportunity for promotion Because God already promised him that he was going to be a father of many nations.
Right.
But the test was an opportunity to prove in character what that looks like. So he had to give his son up. So his son would no longer have a hold on him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, give me your.
The son becomes his God. Because
Right. You can't be a father of many nations because the one who promised you to be the father of many nations is the one you should be serving. But if you have something interfering with that, you can't be ultimately what God called you to be. So you had to give it up. And that was presented from a test. And the test required some type of action. You couldn't sit there and figure it out and say, okay, should I give him that? Or should I? But if I give him, it's not going to, but let me do the math. Like, God said, I'll be the father of many nations, but if I give him up, then I can't, because it's just not, you know what I mean?
So, okay, question for you, right? I mean, this may be getting off topic a little bit, but like, all right, if God told you you're going to be the father of all nations, right? Whatever, right?
Right.
And he's telling you to kill your son. Isn't that contradiction? Like, how would you even know that that's coming from God? Like, why wouldn't you think that's like, that's a, you're telling somebody to kill somebody. How you know that ain't the devil talking?
How?
Yeah. How we knew that wasn't, what I'm saying? Like in just today's time, right? Like,
that's a good question.
Like, how did he know, well, maybe not today, but how did he know that was from God?
That's a good question.
I don't know if that was from God. I don't know. I mean, I ain't read the story like that, so ain't no reverend.
First of all, do you know who his father was? Abraham's father.
Let me guess. Hold on.
I don't even know his name, but go ahead. Go try.
Was Abraham before Paul and not Paul?
He went from the Old Testament to the New Testament.
Not Paul. What's the one that killed his brother?
Nah, not Cain and Abel.
Cain and Abel.
I mean, he's
a descendant from them, right?
Yeah, but I forgot his father's name. But his father was a worshiper of another god who sacrificed children to their god.
Wait, what? How you know that?
Man, you got to read the backstory, man.
How you get the backstory?
Google.
I ain't never heard
Baal.
that before.
You never heard of Baal?
Oh, like the
Baal was a false god, or some people say demonic force, who you have to sacrifice your kids. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the God he served. His father served. God told him to leave his father's house into a place I would show you. How do you know if that's God or not? Because you got to understand too, Abraham walked with God for so long too. So his relationship is already established. But at the end of the day, Abraham still had the faith to leave his father's house and not know. See, that's another sign of trying to figure it out. God told Abraham, leave your father's house and go to a place I will show you. He didn't tell you where he was taking you. He said, just go to a place I'll show you. Like, bro, I'm telling you right now, my faith is not on that level. Because I'm going to have to figure it out. Like, you know what I mean? And I have to work on myself. God have to work on me in that area. But how is it that a God that you don't know tell you go leave your father's house? Something you're familiar with. Go to a place I will show you. He ain't give him no directions, no GPS. You know what I mean? No nothing. He didn't tell you, you're going to go here. Just go there. You know what I mean? No, nothing. He just said go.
Right.
So he had to take an action. You know what I mean? And him making that first step took him to the place where God would tell him, now give up your son Isaac. Now, they've been walking together for, I forgot how many years they've been walking together, Abraham and the Lord. But you get to a place where God tell you to give something up. Well, he, at that point, depended on the promiser and not the promised. You know what I mean? God promised him to be a father of many nations, So it wasn't really about his son. It was about the promise that God promised him. So he trusted in that, and he still was able to make the sacrifice of giving away his son because he trusts the promiser and not what was promised.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, if God promised you something, do you have enough faith to say, okay, well, if you promised me then, and you're telling me to do this, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's you that can save them. You made the promise. I'm putting this on you. You made the promise. So I'm trusting that you can make this happen anyway. You know what I mean? So like, think about trying to figure out all that stuff, man. Just think about that. Like, look at his life. Go into a place where I will show you. You didn't give him a direct place.
Right.
You know, and then years later, you tell him to give up the only promise, you know what I mean, that he had. So it's a lot, man. I think it all ties into faith, man. You know, did that make sense?
It was a lot.
It was a lot,
but I think. So you're saying that it was from God.
Yeah, it was from God. Yeah, the angel stopped him, man. It was from God, and he said, "Because you did this, like think about it. If it wasn't from God, would you now be serving Jesus Christ, the God who gave His only begotten Son?"
Oh, look! I see what you did there.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? He gave His only begotten Son, and I look at that even further. Like, okay, if you're willing to give up your son, your only promise, man, we have something in connection now. We have something that we can relate to.
Yeah.
This is why this is why people say that like Abraham was his friend, because they had some type of what was that? They had something in common. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, but tie that back into figuring it out, man.
Well, I think it kind of it does go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Because he's trying to like Abraham dang sure they haven't figured it out.
Right.
Right.
So all right. So to tie that back, let me just jump in. I'm sorry.
You good?
Because I want to make sure I said a lot, so I want to be sure that I make it clear. The point is, if you are overthinking and you're trying to figure it out, you have to have some type of faith to step out and take action. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, to bring that back home. Because it took faith to step out and do what God told him to do.
So is somebody wrong right now for not having to figure it out?
I was gonna get to that a little later.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I'm trying to drag this conversation. I know there's more meat in this conversation, but I feel like if I say yes or no, that I don't know, man. I feel like it's more meat here, man. And I did have something that I wanted to get out, but I really forgot what it was. Started talking about Talladega Nights and
right.
Like I forgot what it was. But yeah. Is it okay to have it figured out? Okay. You want me to answer it now, Mo?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Here now.
I feel like it's okay to not have it figured out.
Okay.
Because who really has it figured out? And I think the question of, is it okay to not have it figured out is really the answer, because if you don't have it figured out, then you're not in a comfortable position. I think once you have it figured out, then you become comfortable. You know what I mean? And I know like growth doesn't come in comfort.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
So if you are in a position where you don't have it figured out, I think that's a great position. But I do also think that it requires some type of faith to take an action, whatever that action may be. So yes, I feel like it's okay to not have it figured out. What you think, bro? What you think?
Well, I just have a comment just right now, just kind of something you said made me think about like idle hands, right? Like
okay,
like when you say, because when you've ever figured out, you get complacent,
right?
And so at that point you become idle, right?
Yeah.
You just become I'm just here,
right,
and there's so much like destruction that comes
right
from just just living,
Right.
and not really like going after something. And I think when you quote unquote do have it all figured out,
right,
I think that's the beginning of your decline.
Wow, that's dope.
So
that's dope. Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. Why is it not saying? Wait, hold on.
Bars. Here we go.
So, is it okay to not have it figured out? Okay. What about in leadership? Ooh. We got the personal out the way. What about in leadership?
Oh,
is it okay to not have it figured out? So you make a lot of money, and you have and you have how many employees?
Over 40.
Over 40. You make a lot of money.
Allegedly.
And have and you live, your address is I'm just playing. Is it okay as a leader that lead more than 40 people, roughly 50? Is it okay to not have it figured out as a leader? Or you always have to have it figured out?
That's a good question.
Deep, ain't it?
That's a good question.
I know.
So here's the reality. You don't have all the answers.
Okay.
Because if you did,
right,
like, your situation would be a lot different if you did have all the answers, right?
Man.
Or you may have all the answers, but you have to get your team to know all the answers,
right? Because
you're telling them they're not going to retain the information the way they need to be able to and this is my personal opinion, right? If you tell them the answers, they're not going to value the way that they should,
right? And
then either they're going to do what you say but not do it in the right spirit,
right?
Or they're not going to do what you say because they just, it's just another thing, right?
Right.
So when it comes to like leadership and not having it figured out, in my opinion, right, I think that it is okay to not have it figured out, but you have to basically, you can't have a defeated mindset.
Okay.
Right.
Like, so you just can't think negatively and.
Right.
The answer is common, but it doesn't necessarily have to be you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I give you an example, right? I don't know if it's story time, but story time. A lot of times. Or I'll give you an example, right? Got a phone call.
Right.
From my direct manager.
Okay.
And long story short, we didn't have a vehicle for a customer, right? That we said we were going to have it for, right?
Right.
And we ended up, she called me. I'm literally running around trying to, get everybody taken care of at another area or another branch. And literally, I don't know what we're gonna do. But what I do know, right, is I know how to go about figuring it out, and
right,
and so I just went through my process, right?
Right.
Okay, what's the problem? All right, the problem is this. What do we need?
Right.
Where can we find it? Okay, let's look and see who has it. Mm-hmm. All right, how many they have going out? Let's find out. Okay, what their situation is. Okay, well, hey, let me call them. They don't like they need it. Let me call them. Hey, let me get X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Cool, you got it, perfect. Now we just got to figure out how to get it. All right, hey, I need you to go to this place to get this, and even though you don't have it figured out, or I didn't have it figured out,
you're super resourceful.
Yeah, you gotta be. You cannot be, and that's the skill.
Right.
When it comes to not having to figure it out, that's the skill that you have to have. That's, in my opinion, that's probably the number one skill. You have to be resourceful.
Okay.
Or no, maybe number two. Number one, you gotta be positive.
You can't be resourceful without being positive.
You got to know it's going to work out, right?
Right.
But then number two, you got to use your resources and be able to connect with people that can get you what you need.
Right. So I got something on that, man. I wasn't going to talk about this scripture. It was really a chapter, man. Excuse me. It's Acts 27. This is when Apostle Paul, he was a prisoner, right? Mm-hmm. But he had favor amongst, the people who had him captive. So they took him on a boat. I think they was traveling to Rome. And he said something key, man. I think They was sailing. Y'all know I'm country, man. They was sailing in the ocean or whatever, and Paul advised them. This is Acts 27 verse 9. He said, Paul advised them saying, "Men, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster and much loss, not only of the cargo and ship, but also our lives."
Dang.
Yeah. Verse 11, it says, "Nevertheless, the centurions was more persuaded by the helmsman and the owner of the ship than by the things Paul had spoken." So Paul was just letting them know, hey, I see danger, while we out here.
Right.
I think we're going to die, But the people who were sailing, they found their confidence. I mean, as you should, because you're going to listen to the prisoner or you're going to listen to your captain, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? But Paul, he had some type of spiritual discernment. But what happened is they ended up going through the storm, and it was crazy, man. It was crazy. Like, but then Apostle Paul, I think he prayed or he meditated, and the Lord let him know that they would be safe. So he came back and he said, "Hey, I don't know why you ain't listening to me, Now they scared. We finna die. Oh my God, we finna die. Like he said it. He's like, y'all should listen to me. But, the Lord told me that, we good. We ain't gonna die. So let's chill and eat and be merry or whatever. I mean, they still didn't listen.
I'm about to say, they listened to him then?
Nah, they still didn't listen, but they end up being safe. So Paul didn't really know that they was gonna die or not. He just perceived, like there's danger coming, but he wasn't for certain. And if you read the chapter, you can kind of see that he wasn't for certain. But what you can see is that he had faith in God to get an answer. You know what I mean? And the point that he wasn't all the way right, but they saw that him following God, and God was the one who, to save them.
Right.
They then trusted Paul because they knew that Paul submitted to God. So he didn't have it figured out, but God knew, and he trusted God, and they trusted Paul because Paul trusted God.
Dang.
It wasn't the fact that he had it figured out, but he knew the one who had it figured out.
So you can even build, almost like build a community or build a following
right
behind just being in a situation where, listen, I don't know how this gonna work out.
Yeah.
I see what it could be.
Right.
But we gonna see, right? And when it get tough,
yeah,
you leaning on God. In turns, more people, win people over to Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
And be able to save more lives or whatever, right?
Right.
So, dang, that's deep.
Yeah, man, because we think as leaders that we have to know. We have to have it figured out. And I'm going to be straight up, man. I don't trust nobody who got it figured out, who got it all figured out. I don't trust nobody. I mean, Mr. P, we talk about this all the time. Listen, I'm good at what I'm good at. I know what I know.
Right.
But what I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
Right.
I don't work on nothing. I ain't no handyman. I don't know. You tell me I don't know nothing when it comes to that, man. But I think the trust comes when people see that I'm willing to learn and willing to learn on people who do know versus knowing everything myself.
Yeah.
It's like this type of thing. Like, if I see you have a leadership and you trust and lean on your leader, then I'm comfortable trusting and leaning on you.
Right.
Because I know that, for one, you're human and you're not going to make yourself, it's that pride ego type thing. You don't really trust somebody who got a lot of pride, But you do see that person is humble and able to go to their leaders and lean on their leaders, and then you see that and, okay, cool. So if I need something, I can go to them. If they don't have the answer, then I know they can find the answer, like going back to being resourceful. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of, when you said it, made me think about the lyric of the week.
Wait. There we go.
And it comes from Six Black, whatever you want to call him, Black,
right?
Whatever. He says, "I'm on pace. I figured out success ain't a race, right?
Right.
Up the stakes,
right."
So there's a lot of longevity and not having to figure it out.
Right.
Being transparent about it.
That's true.
Because at that point you're playing a longer game.
Right. Yeah.
So you know, so you realize that, okay, by me not having to figure it out, like I'm on pace. Like it's fine. Like it's
right.
I'm good, right?
Right.
I figured out success ain't a race.
Right.
So like you understand that again, like without still having to figure it out, you got time, but it's up the stakes. So like now you can really move performance forward.
That's true.
In a major way.
That's true.
By leaning onto your leadership,
right.
Your team seeing you lead onto your leadership,
right,
and it all work out.
That's true. I agree, man. I agree.
I see what you're saying, boy. I see what you're saying.
Some good stuff, man.
Yeah, boy, you dropping gems today, baby.
Hey, man, I'm trying, man, because I'm saying so much, man, because I feel so much, man, when it comes to not. Because by the way, I go through this stuff myself, you know, and I just pull from what I journal and then just pull from what I hear from the Lord and scriptures and all that, man, and you know, I just kind of bring it back here, man, just being authentic. Let y'all know I ain't got it figured out. You know what I mean? But one thing I am doing is trusting and having faith in God and where He have me in a particular season. So, is it okay to not have it figured out? I think it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's 100% okay.
Yeah, cool. Because
you win, you gonna win bigger because you don't have it figured out.
Right.
If you lean on the right person.
That's true. Man, you keep saying stuff that sparks something, man, but I keep losing it too. Like this was like, man, it was right here. I guess it's meant for next time, man. So you did say it's not a race. It's a marathon, you know, and that's the thing, man. You just got to play the long game. You know, I think we're looking at one season. You know, oh, that's what I was gonna say. But I'm gonna finish my thought. We're looking at one season in our lives, you know, where we may not be where we want to be, and we just can't tend to figure it out. All you gotta do is just keep moving.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just keep moving. And another thing, like not having it figured out is cool. Because for one, you become trusted, but for two, it takes a lot of pressure off you. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell you I don't have it figured out. Because it takes a lot of pressure and a lot of energy pretending that I have it figured out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And y'all can read through that. You know, people are not dumb. Y'all can read through that. So, yeah.
Yeah, the worst thing you can do, man, the worst thing you can do is like pretend to be something that you're not.
Right. True.
Like, people see through that all day long.
Right.
And they and you gonna try to act like you, we got it, we know what we're gonna do.
Right.
Yeah, all right. Get exposed.
We gonna see.
Get exposed, man. So 100%.
Cool, man. Well, is it okay not have it figured out? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.